Do you have the ability to look at yourself from a higher perspective? One thing I found really interesting when I would talk to people about this after I started learning about looking at your life as if you were your higher self is that there was like a small amount of people that I spoke to that actually couldn't remove themselves from their own point of view or their own perspective, like saying they couldn't even kind of visualize detaching themselves from their body and kind of looking at themselves like, you know, as if they were looking down from a drone to sort of have an overall perspective of them inside their life and what their life perspective looked like. And that might be a relatively hard thing to do, but it's something that I learned about how to, I guess, project manage my life and do it in a way where I wasn't getting overwhelmed by all the things and all the tasks that I wanted to try and improve on a daily basis. And obviously I go on about all those sort of key areas of well-being that I talk about, the 7 key areas of well-being, like your spiritual well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, your financial well-being, your social well-being, all these different types of things. But then outside of really focusing on those things and how you hone in on them, like meditation or exercise or speaking to people, speaking to someone that can help you mentally, like a psychologist, putting yourself into social situations, figuring out and sorting out your finances. Sorry, I'm covered in chalk. I just been to the gym, I'm all dirty. There's little things inside your life, like how you carry yourself on a daily basis. So obviously I had a plan of how I was going to start chipping away at these key areas of well-being in my life, just to kind of improve myself, to heal from trauma, to heal myself emotionally, physically, but also like improve myself in a personal development fashion as well. But then it's one thing to have those goals and work towards them, but then there's still a life that surrounds you outside of that. You still have your family, you still have your friends, you still have social interactions like in an every single day basis that unfortunately sometimes when you get focused on a goal, you get this narrow-minded vision, this single honed in pinpoint focus on something. And when that happens, sometimes you can let things slip by the wayside, like just even how you talk to a random stranger, your manners, how you talk to your kids, how you talk to your partner, how you talk to just general people that you meet in public, and then how you sort of carry yourself as a human being, and also your mood that surrounds you inside of that, like how you're carrying yourself, rather than just maybe go, okay, I've got to focus on this thing, I've got to focus on that thing, I've got to focus on this thing to help in those improvements. But you also have to be like, this is where I always talk about balance, like being balanced in that, removing yourself, being objective about it, saying, am I too far leaning and too far focused on this direction? And the point that brought this up for me is that I've got this calendar notification that kind of goes off every single morning on my phone. I've got 3 different ones. The first one that goes off is at 5 a.m. and it's got a list of things in there. And the 5 a.m. was be positive today. That's like the headline of it, and there's a list of things underneath that. And then the second one that goes off at 6 a.m. is change. Make sure you're living at a higher vibration today. Make sure you're living at a better vibration today. How you carry yourself, all that sort of thing, and the list that surrounds that. And then there was another one that starts at 8 o'clock, this calendar notification that I get, there's like, be grateful. So I went through these calendars and I looked at all the list of things, because they're things that pop up every single morning. And I noticed what was happening was setting my alarm for 5 a.m. to get up to go to the gym, but my alarm wasn't going off properly, because my alarm would go off and then I'd get a calendar invite at the same time. It would shut my alarm off. And sometimes, unfortunately, then I was sleeping past my alarm because it would get shut off before it even woke me up. So I went in and I said, I think I need to delete these things out of my calendar. So I went in and had a look at them, went in the be positive one, look at the list. I'm like, yep, doing that every day. Kind of threw it out and I deleted the notification. Look at the one at 6 a.m, change your vibration. Said, yep, definitely living on a higher vibration than I was. Don't have to have this notification sort of going off on my phone every single day. And I deleted that one. Then I got to the one that said be grateful, and I opened that up and I had a look at it, and there was a list of things under this heading of be grateful in my calendar. And they were things like, make sure you're smiling today. Make sure you're making somebody else's day today. Make sure you're having a positive impact on someone else you meet today. Making sure you're being a good father today. Making sure you're not getting angry when his emotions are high, at Teddy, when his emotions are high, and just trying to discipline rather than, taking in his emotions, how he's feeling, having a talk to him, just being a good dad. Be conscious of how you're talking to Courtney today. Be a good partner. Be a good fiance. Be a good lover. Make sure I'm giving affection. And when I looked at these things, I was like, man, I've gone away from some of these things because I'm so focused so narrowly on other aspects of my life. like my fitness, my own well-being, my meditation that I'm doing, my training in jiu-jitsu, my personal development, the books I'm reading, all of these things that I'm trying to tick off every day. And I'm a way better version of myself for it. And you could probably ask Courtney and Teddy what I'm like as a dad and a partner, and they'll be like, yeah, he's a way fucking better version than what he was before. But I'm probably slipping away from some of these things there because I'm so narrowly focused on myself. And it was a really big reminder for me that I had got away from looking at myself from a higher perspective, which is the point of why I wanted to make this video, like I said at the start, and what some people really struggle with. And I thought, how did I get away from that? You know, like, how did I get away at looking from my higher self? And the thing is, and I'm going to try and link it in here. If not, I'll link it in my Facebook group, the Be Curious Mental Health group, but I'll try and link it where I can. There's a couple of podcasts and even books you can read from a guy named Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's got this massive series, a scientist. He's got this massive series on brain health. He's a neuromedical scientist, I believe, and he does all these different types of brain scans, and he essentially healed himself from a traumatic brain injury just through meditation. And there's actually proven brain scans to show that he's improved physical conditions through the way that they meditate, and this special meditation they do, which is helps connect your brain and heart and the coherence between the two, which has a lot to do with actually just removing yourself from your inner self. So rather than being connected to every little thing you've got to focus on during the day and those thoughts that run through your head, which really amp up your sympathetic nervous system, like I've got these bills to pay, I've got this place to be, I've got to be at gym at this time, I've got to pick my kids up at this time, or there's a problem at work, I've just got all these messages, I've got to write back to these messages, I've got a million things to do on my to-do list. And that's really inward pinpoint focusing things that you try to focus on, ramps up your parasympathetic nervous system, which dampens your immune system and actually puts you in your body in a state of distress. And they have these techniques about removing yourself from that and finding the space that surrounds you during the day. And the best way that I can describe it, without you going and watching the podcast and reading the books and all that sort of stuff, it's like you get in a state that's such a relaxed state, you achieve it through meditation first, but then you try and come back to it during the day whenever you can. And it's like you're taking your head, removing it off your body as if it's a drone, shooting it up about 100 feet in the air, looking down on your life, and then looking at yourself as if you're your own project manager and going, okay, there's all this space around you. You don't have to be just stuck inside your head. You can be calm. Okay, now let's start to figure out how we make sure everything in and around this space is very intentional for what I'm trying to achieve, how I'm trying to feel, and making sure it's all working coherently together. So, okay, let's go do this task. Let's go do that task. Okay, make sure when I'm doing that task, I'm having a nice positive interaction with someone. I'm smiling at someone else. I'm making sure I'm looking after my own mental health at the same time. The nicer you are to people and the more you make people's day, the better you feel about yourself. So it's about looking at yourself from a higher perspective. And it's not this Dr. Joe Dispenza that points this out. You can read many, many different books about different successful people in whatever field it is. Like Ray Dalio, he's like one of these really successful stock market hedge fund tycoon, has millions of books, like a book called Principles for Life and Business. And he basically ran his billion-dollar company on these concepts of looking at yourself from a higher perspective, how you're treating individuals, taking in all the information, not getting yourself in a stressful state, and just dealing with things in a calm manner. And all of it has got to do with looking at yourself from a higher perspective. So I guess if I wanted to make one major point out of this, is try and look at yourself from a higher perspective. And if you can just even YouTube a meditation, a guided meditation like brain and heart coherence meditation, you'll see there's a pattern in all these meditations where you're removing yourself from your inner self and you're starting to focus on the space that surrounds you in your body from a higher perspective, from a different perspective. You'll start to see that you're just a person in this tiny little space, and you can manage your life from that perspective. You don't have to be stuck inside here all the time. You don't have to be stuck inside your head all the time. You can manage yourself from a higher perspective. And the way I like to imagine it, like I said, is if I'm removing myself as if I've got this little drone, I'm looking down on my life and I start to project manage my life in different areas and making sure that I'm doing it, I've got an intention. And my intention of today is to be healthy and have abundance. So how am I carrying myself in this little project to be healthy and have abundance? That's through exercise, that's through social interactions and making them positive. That's through making decisions that are going to move me towards my purpose that might give me abundance one day. And there are all these different things that I like to manage my life in that perspective. And when I'm doing it as if I'm removed from myself. So I don't get these physical feelings of stress. I don't get these focused little narrow streamlined things I got to focus on. If they're not getting done, I'm getting stressed out about them. So I kind of removed myself from this situation recently, and it's one of those things, like that calendar thing gave me a reminder of going, am I really ticking these things off? And then I go, this is a lot of things to remember during the day, on top of all the well-being aspects I'm trying to improve. And I thought, how did I even get to the point where I'm at now? And I had to kind of reiterate and step back and reflect on how I did it and just remind myself again. And it's a really important aspect of this is like sometimes you move forward and you have a couple steps backwards. And in this situation, I've gone so far forward, I've got to a point where I maybe had a couple of steps backwards and I hadn't been focusing on these things. And reflection is a really important part of that. And if this is the same thing, if you listen to a podcast or read a book that helps you move forward in a positive direction with these things, don't be afraid to go back to that book, read over it again. Any successful person that's got through any type of hard thing in their life, whether it's business or personal or emotional thing they've got through, and they've read a book that they've picked a habit up from that's really helped them, they've spoken to someone, had a podcast that they've listened to where they've picked up something, they always go back to it 5 times, 10 times. They make notes in the book, they make notes about the podcast, because every time you go back, you'll reiterate the point you learnt before, and you might pick up a new one that kind of helps you manage that thing that you're already doing in the future and manage it a little bit better. So today, yesterday actually, was a really big reflection for me when I went through that list, and I thought, how have I been achieving all these things in my life, and how have I kind of slipped away from these aspects of, you know, how I'm treating the people around me. Not that it was bad, but it wasn't as good as what I wanted it to be. And I remembered, okay, I need to go back and reflect, where did I go wrong here? And it was, I'd forgotten this aspect of my meditation where I was removing myself to my higher self from a different perspective, so I could project manage my life without emotion. I hope that really helps you. I'll try and link in a couple of things that are really relevant to what I'm talking about here. But if you look up Dr. Joe Dispenza and brain and heart coherence and that meditation, and Dr. Joe Dispenza is actually a book that I read while I was sitting in hospital, saying "You Are the Placebo" is the title of the book, and that's about, you know, using your brain to help heal through the placebo effect, which is a real thing. Lots of brain scans and studies that back this type of thing. That's how I got into Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's not the only one that talks about it, but if you just talk, look into looking at your life from a higher perspective, so you can project manage your life. You remove your emotion from it, and you do it with a clear intention, and you're grateful about what's going to happen in the future, is a really key aspect of this. But you'll pick all that up in the content about Dr. Joe Dispenza if you look into it. Have a great weekend. If you're where I am, it's Friday, it's a beautiful day. Thank you for everyone that interacts and watches the videos. Thank you.